and welcome back to Bookish Theories. In today's video I would like to talk about Stray Kids Top, focusing on a little breakdown and analysis of the Japanese lyrics, the music video, and how the song is connected to Levanter and the Stray Kids storyline as a whole. I'm so sorry for the delay, you guys. I finally came through, and I'm also preparing another storyline video that will come out when it will come out. But in the meantime, let's focus on Top and see how it fits into the entire plot. Now, Top is a song that deals with the importance of testing your limits and to keep going despite the difficulties you meet along the way. The Japanese version of the track has been chosen as the theme song for the anime adaptation of Tower of God, a Korean webtoon that shares a lot of similarities with the Stray Kids storyline and whose general themes are perfectly portrayed in the music video. As we'll see in a second, Top is a song whose lyrics and MV are heavily inspired by Tower of God. But as it turns out, the video is actually connected to our storyline as well, because as Bang-chan himself has stated, the video is set in a parallel universe to the events that we saw until now. On a general level, this actually makes a lot of sense, because back in Levanter, we saw the boys supposedly escape the maze they were trapped in and go back to the field that we saw in Levanter. In spite of the roads they chose to take, the boys ended a cycle and moved on to the next one. But as always, nothing is what it seems in this story, so let's start with Tower of God and move on from there. Now, Tower of God is a story that revolves around Bam, a boy who has lived all his life under a mysterious tower with a girl named Rachel as his only friend and companion. When Rachel enters the tower to go see the stars, Bam decides to go after the girl and enter the tower himself. But as it turns out, reaching the top is easier said than done, because each floor is only accessible by people who pass increasingly challenging tests. The higher you go, the more difficult it gets, so Bam and the other participants to the test have to learn to rely on each other in order to move on and achieve their goals. Right off the bat, this is important because this idea is perfectly conveyed in the music video, where we see the members undergoing a dangerous challenge and accessing to the next level of their journey by helping each other out. This is an essential aspect that we see in both Tower of God and the Stray Kids storyline, and as a matter of fact, the lyrics of Top heavily focus on this idea as well. At the beginning, the song opens with Changbin questioning how far they can go while aiming to reach the top. This rhetorical question, however, is soon followed by a statement of intent, because the initial doubt that he has is soon replaced by his confidence that he will see the answer for himself while undertaking a dangerous challenge and overcoming it. These lines here perfectly convey the determination that we see in all the characters from Tower of God, because all of them have their own agenda and all of them are ready to do whatever it takes in order to reach their goal. But much like in the story, Stray Kids also realize that the best way to go is to go together. As Hyunjin says, by relying on each other, they can achieve the impossible and overcome any obstacle. But as soon as he says this, he also lets us know that he will never stop and that he will be the last one standing. This is important because if you look closely, Hyunjin is extremely suspicious throughout the entire video. Much like what we see in his lines, at first glance, he seems on board with overcoming the challenge together. But as the story progresses, Hyunjin actually sabotages the challenge by breaking the glass and putting the other members in danger. So what's up with that? What's he doing? Well, on the one hand, this could be yet another reference to Tower of God, because in that story, some of the characters that seem trustworthy actually end up betraying the others in order to get to their goals. This could also explain all the red that we see in the video, because in Tower of God, red is a color that is often associated to FUG, which is a secret organization that is working against the ruling families of the tower. This could imply that in the video, Hyunjin is playing the role of the traitor who is willing to sacrifice the others in order to pass the challenge. But if you look closely, when he breaks the glass, Hyunjin is crying, which means that even if he's putting the others in danger, this is something that he's forced to do but doesn't necessarily enjoy. Now, this is an interesting detail because in the Stray Kids storyline, Hyunjin is always somehow ahead of the others when he's going through his journey. He's often portrayed alone, and the audience is often led to see the storyline through his perspective. And this could either mean that he is in it for himself, or that he is actually helping the others move on by challenging them along the way. You see, if there's one thing that is certain in the storyline is that the boys have to overcome their difficulties in order to reach their goal. It's all about growth basically. So Hyunjin here could be playing a character that embodies both the journey and the difficulties and conflicts that this journey imply. As we'll see in a second, there may also be some other clues that would confirm this to be true. But for now, let's get to the pre-chorus, where Seungmin takes on the role of Bam and acknowledges that his destiny awaits him at the top of the staircase that he has to climb. If in the story Bam's goal is to reunite with Rachel and never let her go, in our story the boys are betting everything they have on their goal and they're promising themselves to keep going until the light shines on them. Now, this reference to the light is extremely interesting because the way the video portrays it not only recalls the imagery of Tower of God, but may also be a clue for the story to come. You see, in the highlight reels, the voiceover tells us that when the boys escape the maze and reunite with themselves, the two moons come together in a streak of light. And this is important because, much like what we saw in Levanter with the red moon and the white moon coming together, in Top, red and white unite to create a streak of light that will lead them to the next step of their journey. Since this is a parallel universe we are talking about, it's entirely possible that what we are seeing in the video is the same event that we saw in Levanter but told in a different way. And the fact that in Top the challenge to overcome is the wind seems to confirm this as well. You see, in his V-Live, Bang Chan actually revealed that the wind is an important clue here, because if in Top the boys are fighting the wind, in Levanter they seem completely unaffected by it. According to what he said, this is the same wind but has a different meaning. And this is important because this clue implies that the two versions of Stray Kids are at different stages of the storyline. If on the one hand the Levanter in Levanter could be seen as a symbol of change and transformation that the boys are embracing and welcoming as they get to the next stage of their journey, on the other, Top shows us that the boys are still resisting this change to the point that it represents a challenge. This means that in Top, the wind is literally meant to symbolize the struggle that the boys have to overcome in order to move on. And this leads us right back to Hyunjin, who, in contrast to the others, is not affected by the wind in the slightest. Now, if we consider Hyunjin as a friendly presence here, this could mean that even if he is ahead of the others when it comes to his personal journey, he is challenging the rest of the group in order to move on together. This possibility is also reinforced by the choreography itself, because if you look closely, in the video we see Hyunjin literally carrying the rest of the group together with him. If we see him as a source of conflict or friction within the group, on the other hand, this could be a reference to the events that we saw back in Side Effects, because much like in Top, that video shows us that Hyunjin is the one to blame for the problems they have to overcome. Now, if this is the case, then we can say that Top is not only showing us an alternative version to Levanter, but an alternative version of the storyline as a whole. And the very next scene seems to confirm this as well, because when Hyunjin breaks the glass actually cuts Linow while he is escaping. Now, this is important for a couple of reasons, because if on the one hand the past videos show us that Linow does have a similar cut on the other cheek, which again reinforces the idea that Top is set in a parallel universe to the storyline, on the other the cut also confirms that the references go far beyond Levanter itself. If you remember, the cut on Linow's cheek actually appears for the first time back in Double Knot. But much like in that video, in Top we see that Linow's cut comes and goes depending on the scene. Now, if you watch my other videos about Stray Kids, then you know that one of my main theories about the storyline is that there are two groups of Stray Kids walking around starting from Side Effects moving forward. This split begins in the Side Effects teaser and develops throughout the video itself, and later on we see it in Double Knot, Astronaut and Levanter. And this split is meant to show us the different roads the boys could be taking and the different ways they could get to the very same destination. This theory seems to have been confirmed in the highlight reels as well, because the voiceover reveals that the double moon represents the different choices the two groups are making in the journey. And as it turns out, in Top, this idea is referenced as well. As the lyrics tell us, no matter what choice they make, they have to own it, because no matter what happens, there is no turning back. Now, this is an interesting addition to the song because if we also consider the reference to the off-beaten track that they included in the English version, this part here could actually be a callback to Road Not Taken, which is the poem by Robert Frost that inspired the entire concept of Clair to Yellowwood and that is also referenced in the very first song of that album. Much like in the poem, the boys have chosen a road and now they have to stick to it no matter how difficult it is. But Top shows us that they are not worried about that because the determination that they have to achieve their dreams is more powerful than any anxiety or hurry. Even if it's hard and there are many difficulties ahead of them, they know that they are good enough to win because at the end of the day, it's their destiny to achieve their goals. As Felix says in the bridge, even if they fall and even if the stage gets harder as time goes by, they will find a way to solve the problem and keep going because they have the key they need to open the door and move on to the next one. This is a dream that they will achieve together without letting each other go. And this is exactly how the video ends, that is, with them moving on as a group to the new chapter of their journey. Thing is, in both Top and Astronaut, they do leave Jungin behind, so what's up with that? Well, in his V-Live, Bang Chan revealed that Ayan's character is actually very close to that of an oracle, meaning that he knows everything and he is aware of the differences between the two worlds. This is also shown in the video itself, because when we see the boys overcoming the challenge together, the camera actually cuts from Jungin to Hyunjin at the window, which means that whatever Hyunjin is doing here, Ayan is aware that he is to blame for the incident. But if this is the case, then why do they leave him behind? Well, my personal guess is that even if it looks like they're leaving him behind, it's very plausible that this is not really the case. If you look closely, the scene of Jungin by himself is immediately followed by Linow getting hurt. And this is important because in this context, Ayan and Linow are not actually together. While Linow is by himself, Ayan is running away with Hyunjin, Seungmin and Changbin, which means that Jungin here is seeing what is happening to Linow with his mind rather than with his own eyes. It's like a vision, if you will, which, interestingly enough, is immediately followed by Ayan himself moving towards the light without the others. Now, if we consider these scenes in succession, this could mean that what we are seeing here is not Ayan getting left behind, but a representation of Ayan actually having visions of both the present and the future. He knows that the others are struggling, but he also knows that the end game is to move on towards the light. And even if he cannot do anything about it, sure enough, this is how the events play out. The boys overcome their struggle and move on to the next stage of their journey, which brings us right back to the ending of Levanter and to what we saw in the Go Live trailer. This basically means that Top is showing us another way the boys overcame their obstacles and moved on with their adventure. But to know how this adventure will actually unfold, we'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please think about liking and subscribing. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye bye!